Hey, internet, YouTube, movie fans, 90s kick-ass Flixxx fans. Once again, it's Anthony Sica, and I'm here with my Kung Fu squad. Yeah, we got Mr. Jeff Rankin. Say hello, Jeff.
Hello, Jeff.
We got down in the corner there. We got Daniel Darth Driscoll.
Rock and roll.
And then right here we got the main man, Daryl. Simply incredible.
Van Damage
with his Van Damage poster. Look at that. Look at him fucking up that vintage poster over and over, just rolling it, unrolling it. We got some people watching. We got some people watching. Yes, we know it's only us watching, but guess what? In just a matter of months, this will have 23,000 views, just like the last Van Damme review we did. Anyway, what are we here talking about, guys? We're talking about Timecop. Timecop is a 1994 movie starring Jean-Claude Van Damme, Ron Silver, Mia Sara, Gloria Rubin, and the guy that stars in every goddamn cop film and TV show ever, playing Van Damme's boss. Can't remember his name off the top of my head, but guess what, guys? This is a cult classic. And it's more than a cult classic. It was a blockbuster in 1994. Van Damme's highest grossing film, by the way. All the classics Van Damme has been in. This $100 million plus film was his highest grossing film. And, really, as Jeff and I were discussing in the green room prior to broadcast, even though he had movies that Bloodsport, Hard Target, all that, this is the movie that kind of broke him to everybody and their grandmother. This made Van Damme a household name back in 1994, so much that 3 years later, they actually made a TV show called Timecop that ran for a season or two. It wasn't that bad. And then Timecop 2 or 3 or whatever sequels they did, which I know weren't as good. And to tie the whole thing together with the nerdy collective that we have in the room here, Timecop was actually a story that appeared in a Dark Horse Comics anthology. Before the movie, it was the first appearance. Dark Horse Comics ties to a movie we reviewed a while ago, Barbed Wire, produced and directed by the same people. So here we go. It's time for fun. Jeff Rankin, tell us a little bit about your feelings about Timecop.
Timecop. Well, shoot, man. I was just done graduating at that time, a few years back in the States. And when that movie came out, I was like, this has a little bit of everything. Takes you a little bit through sci-fi. I've always loved things, the whole idea of time travel, like Back to the Future idea. And, it took that tough guy kind of thing, and science and kind of like AI type of thought processing, and you had the villain and the good guys, and I just really thoroughly loved this movie when it came out. But I've always been a huge Van Damme fan, but Timecop kind of was a different kind of role for him, and pretty much all the actors and actresses that were in this movie really, I think, did a very good part with having their character and those characters being very specific to those actors and actresses that were playing them. Like the guy who played McComb. I mean, he couldn't have been more of a sleazeball, right? Just basically trying to run the world. So he was excellent. And
Ron Silver, the late Ron Silver.
Yeah, late Ron
He's
Silver.
dead.
Oh, that's right.
He died. That's okay.
But there's just many wonderful, great quotes out there. Like we were talking about. What was that one? There was that scene. It says, I'm an ambitious, Harvard-educated visionary who deserves to be the most powerful man in the world. And you're a fucking idiot who never figured out that only the way to make anything of himself was with all that fancy kicking was on Broadway. And then Walker, no, thanks for clearing that up, right? And then he kicks him. That it's those great lines, man, that just make me love that movie. So
there's no way you had that. There's no way you had that memorized. You read that.
Of course I did.
I just remember Ron Silver saying, "I thought you had bigger balls." And then there was the other one where, what did he say? Lay off the cheese puffs or the
The candy bars.
Candy bars.
Candy bars, right.
Freaking candy bars.
Yeah, lay off the candy bars, will you?
And then smash his head into the window, you know?
Yes. Ron Silver, McComb's character, was a prick. Funny thing is, though, the young McCombs was really not a prick. So somewhere along the line in those 20 years, he turned into a real asshole, or 10 years, actually. Daniel, give me your fast take. We'll come back to you, Jeff. We got plenty of time tonight. I just want to get initial reactions. Daniel!
Stop yelling. I'm pretty sure that Van Damme didn't cut his hair after Hard Target. It almost like the mullet galore was going on in this film, and I loved it. Even the bad guy had like a version of like the bad guy version because the sides were shaved, but it was still very much a mullet. Yeah, Ron Silver almost kind of stole this movie. I mean, even though it had all the Van Damme tropes that I love, you know, the splits, the high kicks, you know, and all the choreography and stuff like that. Ron Silver's character was like, you know, more fit to be the perfect villain. He had all the one-liners. He had the evil plot, the, you know, behind-the-scenes mustache twirling, right? Like, I'm going to run for president, which is kind of odd. Going back and watching this, I'm pretty sure that Donald Trump watched this right before he ran for president because, I mean, it's all there, you know. It's the,
he even says,
I need special interest. He needs somebody so rich they didn't have to listen to anybody.
Yeah.
Does that sound familiar or what?
Yeah.
You know, he says, I'm going to take it back to the 80s where, you know, 10% of the richest and then the other 90 are poor and stuff like that. It's like, it's actually kind of eerily haunting. But no, I want to know whose pockets Dark Horse was in at this period, because it seemed like any idea they had, they got it made into a movie. It got optioned that quick.
Yeah.
But thankfully, right, because, you know, those of us who read comics, we understand how great those characters and those stories are. But no, I dig it. It's a fun movie. And anytime you're talking Van Damme, you know, I'm in the bag for it. So I'm excited we're talking about it today.
Go, Daryl, go. Before your internet cuts out.
Right up front, my favorite Van Damme movie. You got the time travel. You got the sleazeball in it. And you got
don't talk about Van Damme like that.
Beautiful ladies in there.
Mia Sarah.
Yeah, Mia, not an ugly young lady. And we got the comics, obviously.
Look at you.
Yeah, somebody's got to bring it, so might as well. There's only one scene in this entire movie that I really, really hate, but we'll get to that later.
Okay.
Now, you know what? Right now, Ron Silver in that limousine, when he's like eating those peanuts or whatever it was, just the sound of it, just, I want to punch him in the face.
I know someone who talks and acts just like him.
Dude,
and the guy drives me insane.
It was just that
peanuts
sound.
Daryl's ASMR.
But the whole movie I thought was great. There's always the one thing in time movies that you always say, but I mean, at some point you got to figure there's still, at some point the Van Damme they have to meet back up in the modern times. But you know, that's where you just kind of step away from it. And you know, like, how does he know what his son and his wife's been doing? Why he had come back, but all that. And that car that he was driving back to his house at the end, that was one ugly futuristic car.
But it drove itself without killing him. So.
It drove itself, yes. In Washington, D.C., where there was no traffic, must have been filmed during COVID last year. But other than that, my favorite movie, I love it. The one-liners, you know, Van Damme jumping up, doing his split that we all, I used to wish I could do such a thing. That was, you know, painful. Couldn't do it, but love the movie. Absolutely love it.
Well, speaking of, here we go. No sound. You can make your own sounds. 450 volts.
Love this.
Fuck you. Hey.
I mean, in reality, would that even work?
Probably not.
I Can you even think the water was going to spill over to him, like back up a couple steps?
Yes. Oh, good. We weren't shut down by YouTube. It's still going.
No, that was quick. That was
Hey.
perfect.
So my impressions of the movie. I love time travel. In fact, I have a new book called Misty America that features time travel, very much like Timecop, but instead of cops, they're military and they're fighting terrorism in the past. Now, I'm gonna start off a conversation by things that totally drive me insane about this film. And I think we spoke about it in the green room after one of our earlier broadcasts.
Yep.
I don't fucking stand how you can get in a vehicle and go 1,000 miles an hour so much that when Gloria Reuben's character asks him, "What are you doing?" he says, "I just try and not swallow my tongue." Sarah Fielding. When they go in this machinery that apparently they need to time travel. When they go in this car, when they appear in the past, magically the car disappears. And they're out of a seatbelt and they're out of the cockpit of the vehicle.
Cockpit.
But the best part is when they do that little Wayne's World ripple that they go back to the future in, somehow they fucking are in the car again. Is that car waiting on some quantum realm for them to get in and out? Because I guarantee when they first go back in time, Gloria Reuben's character and Van Damme wind up in the middle of the lake, the Potomac, whatever they're in, and the car's not there. So how do you get back in the car? Why couldn't the writers of the movie just have like a little watch thing or something? It makes no fucking sense. Oh, and here's another part. When the guy in the beginning who is going in the past during the Depression, being a robber baron on Wall Street, the courtroom, when they find him guilty, they're able to immediately send him back in the past with no car, no device, no nothing. So, was the time machine in the judge's gavel? I don't understand. I've watched it, and there's no rhyme or reason why they wrote the car thing in there. No, and it was a crash dummy car. Like,
there's one reason.
Bothers the shit out of me. Go ahead.
There's one reason, and that is just so when he comes back and forth, you see that nameplate on the wall. You see Macomb on it one time, and when he comes back and changes history, it says Parker on it.
You know what? Yeah, and also the other thing.
In the past, he pushes that button on his
that
jacket.
Guy, he changed the timeline of the world like 10 times.
Yep.
The guy watching porn was like a business professional later, and then he was a hippie again at the end. And the other thing that bothers me, because I'm going to get all the negative stuff out of the way, when he comes back at the end of the movie, spoiler, all of a sudden he's got a wife and a kid who's like 7 years old. He has no memory of having this fucking kid, by the way, because it was a different timeline. What happened to the guy that was living that life? Did he just disappear? Again, it's Wolverine, it's Infinity War. I don't understand anything going on.
Yep.
But that's it. Other than that, Mia Sara was great and topless for a scene, which that was nice. And again, Ron Silver, amazing performance.
Yep.
I know a person, an acquaintance of mine, who I used to work for, who had that same accent, that New York rich accent thing he had going on, and arrogant fuck, and always used to eat while talking to you. And the idea about him saying, why you got to be, to his assistant, why you got to be such a bitch, because I punched you in the nose or whatever. And then the girl who he says, who he asks, he says, have you ever seen the inside of the president's limo? And he says something like, I'll send you a picture or something. He's just a condescending fucking asshole. And even to himself, when he said, lay off the candy bars, and he said, I thought you had bigger balls, he was a dick to himself. And but in the end, you know, he really got fucked up all Raiders of the Lost Ark twirly shit and turned him into a ball of goo or something. You know, it was fitting. And the idea of the Rockettes or being on Broadway theme, that ran through it good. There was a lot of sexual tension between Ron Silver and Van Damme when he said something about, you know, I always get my man. And he says, I bet you do, and all that. But I got to ask the panel, and any one of you can, any one of you, please chime in. The beginning scene where his wife got blown up in the first timeline, do you think she really got blown up, or was that a setup, the end and the beginning, like a Marty McFly when you see him in the parking lot and he sees himself? Do you think his, I don't know what I'm asking.
I think it's open for kind of like at the end there, it's kind of like open for suggestion for that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
You had that. I mean, yes, you got the car that brings, obviously transports you. You're not there. Kind of, I think, same idea could be in here, right? But I think maybe she did die because he was wanting to go back, you know, and do all these changes. And, you know, you couldn't change things too much or you drastically change future, what, blah, 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 blah. But I think she did die. And I think that the way that the outcome was at the end of the movie with the different, it was actually different outcomes that were happening with like the bad guys outside. And with how all that transpired, it shifted and changed to, I think, to the new reality of her staying alive.
Do you guys also think that, remember when he first met Sarah, Gloria Rubin's character, and she said, did you go back to try and save her or something like that? Do you think that, why didn't he try and go back and save her then? If he's a time traveler, couldn't he have traveled in the past to the night before to find out why she was killed? Or was he such a company man that he was worried about the butterfly effect of it?
See, that's what I thought. It was just the thing that he didn't want to go back and change history because that's what he's trying to prevent to begin with.
But when he found out that everything was nefarious, then he had no problem with changing history.
Since he was already there.
Because he created an imaginary boy that he got to see that was his son. So,
and they were,
it's hurting my head.
And they were already going to the house, so he had to go to the house anyway.
Right.
But I would say this: the two henchmen, I thought they played good roles, especially the dude with the dark hair and like the no hair right here and that gigantic 1990s like metal fro going. I was like those guys in the shoes with the metal on it, and I was like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole ending battle scene at the house was strange because like future Van Damme just spends a lot of time observing. Like he goes in to kind of warn her and tell her how to survive the night. Then he just kind of sits back and watches the whole time. And then she gets shot and the house blows up anyway. But then that movie ends in the future and his son's there and the exact same house is there. And it's like, did they rebuild the house that blew up? Did they prevent the house from blowing up? Because it looked just as weathered as it did. And if they rebuilt it, I don't think it's going to get that weathered in 7 years, you know, or however long it was, you know, from that night. But yeah, it was definitely bizarre. Like he pick and choose when he wanted to help out.
Oh no, I know the answer to that.
All right.
Even though they blew the house up at the end, right? Because when Ron Silver touched himself and they couldn't, and two of the same timelines can't occupy the same space, that changed everything when he went back. Because when he said, what about McCombs? And he said, what about him? On whatever date, he left his office and he was never seen again. So what happened is, yeah, they did blow up the house, but I think when he went back in time, when he did the Wayne's World thing and went back, he had changed the future. He had changed the whole timeline because they said that McCombs was missing. And so I think maybe that even erased what happened that night. I don't know. That's the only indicate, because you're right. The house was there and it was literally, but it was 10 years later because he's a time cop in 2004 and the actual events take place in 1994.
Yeah.
So
it's surprising. It's surprising that Fielding did not remember seeing Van Damme in the hospital.
Right. But they were so good at building birdhouses. So maybe they just rebuilt their house too.
Yeah, that's true. Weathering in the paint. There you
That's
go.
it.
And with all the super technology that he had, it still looked like he was watching VHS tapes of his wife, even though the car could drive itself. By the way, old school. That's how I had to watch it. I only got the VHS, baby.
Well, and it speaks to like what you were saying, the mixing of time travel, right? Like they time travel in so many different methods. There's like the guy falling from the building. He shows up, then he disappears, and he shows back up again. And then there's the car, and then there's whatever happened to Silver at the end of it. So I hate to bring up a better time travel movie, but I was like Back to the Future, like the car disappears and then it shows back up. Just keep it simple. They even make a comment about it, like we don't know how they're traveling through time because they don't have what we have.
Right.
At some point in the movie, it's bizarre.
They had a prototype.
The prototype. Okay.
Because they mentioned that earlier, and they're like, "Where's it at?"
By the way, the acting of the African American guy in the beginning, who then shows up later for a scene, the guy who started the program, who was talking to the senators who were like, "This sounds like Star Trek. Beam me up, Scotty." and then he was talking about the Confederate, money, that the gold that was stolen in the previous scene. That actor was so solid too that I was hoping that he was going to be more a part of a movie, because he was pretty slick. His delivery, his lines, just his whole Nick Fury shield, I'm Mr. Liaison type guy. I was disappointed that he wasn't involved more, or that maybe Ron Silver could have killed him or whatever. But even the idea of the I really think the reason time travel movies are so fucked up is because no one that we know about, at least, is really a time traveler. So no one can explain how it really works. And I think every science fiction writer and scientist just guesses, because it was weird. The guy that was the partner who was on Wall Street in the 20s or the early 30s during the Depression, he made a comment that, like, if you kill me now or in the future, my family doesn't exist and this doesn't exist. But it was okay to send. But the judge said if we send them back in the past, we can kill him and it doesn't alter the timeline because we sent him back before he was born. Which I didn't understand that shit either. That was a weird thing. That was like his family was okay if he went in the past and died, because remember when he was trying to jump off the building or kill himself when he actually did fall, he said, if I die now, everything's okay. In other words, dying in the past is okay, but he couldn't die in, like, say 1994 or in between, because then his kid wouldn't be alive and his wife wouldn't be married to him and all that shit, which that confused me too.
He probably just didn't think it through. He
I know. Well,
hadn't been that intelligent. Goes,
but who said it? Daniel said it the best. The Back to the Future, out of all the time travel movies, makes the most sense. Like, if Marty's mom and dad didn't go out or hook up in the parking lot, Marty's hand disappears and he never gets to play Johnny Be Good.
Mhm.
And Chuck Berry's in the back listening to him playing. The point is, though, like that whole idea that if I go back in the past and my parents die or something, then of course I disappear from the picture because that affects everything in the future.
Sure.
But just like Endgame and Loki and every other time travel thing lately, to be honest with you, Timecop was ahead of its time, no pun intended, because they were making alternate timelines. When Van Damme went back and they were closing the bureau there, and like I said, the nerdy hippie IT guy who was watching the virtual porn, he was all Mr. Will you please call me Richard? You know, it was like everything was different. And the boss, Matuzak, played by Bruce McGill, who Bruce McGill has starred in every cop show, movie, Magnum.
MacGyver's best friend.
He's the best friend of every person that's ever been in a film. Matuzak, like, he couldn't remember that Jean-Claude Van Damme in that timeline was his friend and used to go over his house for his wife's salty goulash.
You think he ever told MacGyver, if I catch you fucking that thing again, I'm going to break your neck?
That's right. He was MacGyver's buddy too. And he was and he also starred in Magnum PI as Tom Selleck's buddy, who turned out to be a traitor or a Russian spy or something. And Tom Selleck, spoiler, killed him in the middle of the woods or Vietnam or somewhere. But anyway, the point is, that guy has been acting as the best friend in TV and movies forever.
Hey, Cap.
Captain Comics is on. Again, actually not on. He's got a robot that just says that message. But again, you know, the thing is that I just, the time travel in this film, for all its cheesiness, besides the little Wayne's World ripples and the car that appears out of nowhere, it really was cool in that they showed these alternate timelines. And I don't recall, was Quantum Leap like that too? No?
No. He just went back into someone's body and
that's right.
Then he changed the history of it, and then he popped out, and you don't see what happens after that.
What about Sliders?
I don't remember that.
I remember that. That was with that one. What was he? A professor or something? The older guy.
Well, Sliders was with the guy Jerry McConnell,
right?
Who's married to what's her face, and I just remember Kari Warrer in it for a while.
I remember Kari.
Yeah, I bet you do.
Yeah, boy.
Anyway, and speaking
Remote Control.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah. With and who else was on Remote Control? Who played
Adam Sandler.
Adam Sandler. That's right.
It's his Jason. It's his rules.
Daniel's like, what the fuck are you guys talking about?
Yeah,
anyway,
Maximilian.
Yeah. But I don't. Oh, Mia Sara, wasn't she great in the movie? Again, all these action movies from the 90s have these really very attractive actresses who have like 10 minutes of screen time, if that.
Yep.
Man, the patriarchy in the 80s and 90s was awful. These women, and by the way, what's the point? If they're such good eye candy, why not leave them on the screen a little longer? You know why? Because Van Damme's prettier than all of them.
I mean, they both were on screen in their underwear, so
that's right.
Always that.
There you go.
I had a Van Damme question in this movie. How come, like in '94, when he's a clean cut beat cop, he has a relatively normal haircut, and then he goes 10 years in the future, 2004, and his hair gets more 90s?
I thought the same thing.
I wanted to know why his wife didn't recognize him, because the only difference was his hair was 4 inches longer.
Yeah.
He pretty much looked the same.
A little more scruffy in the face,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm getting ready for my next movie.
I want to give a little shout out to that in the 30 scene. That Irish cop, he was in the movie for all of 10 seconds combined, but he was fun.
Yeah. He was. Did he know that she was pregnant when she died the first time?
No. That's why he was so insistent on that she tell him.
Yeah, he found out when he went back and he saw the blood sample.
That's right. I'm sorry, I forgot that. Mm-hmm. He spent a long time in that hospital. And by the way, he said he was a cop, but he was dressed in that future cop garb from 10 years in the future. So I didn't really understand.
Back a little further in time, they would have been like, "Hey, are you in the Coast Guard?"
Yeah, he kind of had a Marty McFly in the diner wearing the vest and the sneakers kind of thing. Yes,
still better cop uniforms than Judge or what the hell's the one we just did there? With
Barbed Wire?
Huh?
Oh, yeah. Demolition Man.
Demolition Man.
Yes.
Still better cop uniforms than in that movie.
Yeah. Well, that movie, the cop uniforms were from the party store.
I just realized why Fielding did not recognize him, because she died in the hospital that day.
Yeah, exactly.
Forgot about that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
That's why she didn't recognize him.
Yeah. And there's my point about the guy in Wall Street.
Yep.
Because she died in the hospital the day before her 16th birthday.
Yep.
Okay. But in the future timeline that he made, she was alive.
Yeah, she was that almost like rookie cop in the future.
Anybody see Days of Future Past with the X-Men? Yep. This movie is very much like that. Wolverine goes in the past, but he doesn't remember the revised timeline when he shows up. And I honestly think that when Van Damme goes back at the end of the movie and everything's okay because McCombs disappeared, he doesn't remember the birth of his child. He doesn't remember the first 7 years of his child's life. I don't even think he knows his kid's name. Yeah. All he knows is that I just worked a goddamn full day at work and now I got to make hot dogs.
Yeah, he gets him and he sees that kid with that shitty looking vest. I would have been like, who the hell dressed this kid?
And again,
you go 10 years in the future and everything in the style and everything gets more 90s.
Yeah. And
what are we going to do in 10 years? More of the same. In fact, go a little bit more extreme.
Well, yeah, well,
it could be retro.
It's all, you know what? There's no refuting that. You're totally right. Great fucking observation too. Timecop, again, highest grossing Van Damme movie. It is super good sci-fi for when it came out. Enough to spawn a television show in 1997 and a sequel. Who starred in the sequel, Jeff?
Jason Scott Lee.
Yeah. Who played Bruce Lee.
That's right.
Who played Bruce Lee in that biop.
Yep.
So this movie is connected, okay, to The Crow and is connected to Barbed Wire and is not connected to Demolition Man, as far as I can tell. But the movies we've reviewed. Oh, Daniel. I got a special question for you, Daniel.
Uh-oh.
Everybody ready?
Go for it.
Of all the movies we reviewed, how does this movie remind you of Batman?
Doesn't.
Oh, yeah!
Never portray Van Damme. Hard Target didn't, and Timecop didn't.
We made a lot of comparisons with Hard Target to
Batman. We did with The Crow, not Hard Target. Hard Target's a perfect movie. You watch your blasphemous mouth. We
We did compare the city of New Orleans to a very Gotham-esque, but anyway, and we did talk about trench coats and Gothic wear. But you're right. Anyway, yeah, this movie did not remind anybody of Batman. However, Ron Silver starred in it, and of course, Joel Silver was the producer of all the Batman movies. That's the only connection I can make. But yeah, it was quite a unique. Out of all the things, out of the films, the 4 or 5 films we've reviewed, this Fantastic Four of movie reviewers, this was the least like Batman. Even the music did not resemble Batman at all.
No Prince.
Nothing was Burton-esque. Nothing was Danny Elfman-esque, and nothing was Prince-esque.
Let me say this. There was almost a Marvel reference in it.
Let me hear it.
When he was stopping that kid at the beginning of the movie who stole that purse with the kick to the face.
Wolverine. Yeah.
And he's like, no, read between the lines. Like, what the hell does that even mean?
In fact, when I watched it, I was like, does it say something between the lines that I can't see? That was good product placement for Wolverine boots, though.
I was like, there's dirt or gum between there?
Yeah. And then what did he say about the purse? It doesn't go with your outfit or something?
It doesn't go with your outfit.
Yeah. Very condescending, Van Damme. Oh, wait a minute. That scene had 1 million product placements in it because you had the Wolverine boots, and then in the background there was a huge banner that said 1994 Toyota, like in big letters. Toyota, it said. And that was the most unthug looking thug I've ever seen. That kid was wearing the nicest mall clothes for the time with a nice skateboard. And the weird thing was, when I don't know if it was in the beginning, but when he did the same thing to the kid at the end, when he was, the older Van Damme doing it again, the lady who he gave the purse back to, the old lady, she like looked directly at the camera like it was a Mentos commercial. and then he looks back at the camera. So you had there was a point of view shot, a POV section of that movie besides the Wolverine boot that I didn't understand. It's like, I think that was the only clip that worked. But, I got to say I'm a little disappointed in all of us, gentlemen, because for a movie that we all like so much, it seems like we're running out of things to talk about.
Well, there's a couple things.
Wait, let me make you big, Jeff.
Oh, there you
You didn't have to be big, but so
let me enlarge you.
Let me. Ooh.
But yeah.
So we never talked about the initial scene, where basically, what was it, like Civil War time or something? Mm-hmm. And he they show up and he's wearing like this cowboy kind of like bad boy, again, trench coat kind of deal, and they completely take over the folks that have all the gold. Do you guys remember why they were even going back in time?
It was they were stealing the gold to finance the presidential candidacy of what's his face, McComb.
Exactly. And then on Ron Silverman McComb at that one time, when he goes, elections are won with television. You don't need the press. You don't need endorsements. You don't even need the truth. You need money, right?
Right.
I thought that was like just super powerful, for making that kind of statement in the movie.
Oh, but actually, wait, can I correct my answer? That gold wasn't stolen for the presidential stuff. That was when the African-American CIA agent met McCombs and the chief.
That little Senate committee.
Yeah, the Senate committee. He said there was some sort of terrorist thing with Palestine or Iran, and he said they paid for these nuclear weapons with gold doubloons or gold bars from the Confederate Army. Mm-hmm. So that's what that was. And
they had been DNA tested.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just realized I was wrong.
Yeah, but
usual.
They're again, it's kind of like this weird twist, right? Because Macomb, the whole purpose of them even going back is to be stealing that for getting enough money for endorsements. So it was kind of interesting to hear that. But where I'm going with this long-winded story is, so I guess when you go back in time, you know, like how we were talking about the car and you show up in person, I guess you should also show up in the right clothing for that time period. And you're also full of dirt, looking like you've been there for a while.
Right.
Wasn't that kind of like an awkward type of moment when you actually think about it? So you're going to go rob these people. You're going to have messed up grill by the time you arrive, and you're going to look dirty as hell with the clothes. I just thought that was kind of odd. Now that I was thinking about it after you guys were putting it out there.
That beginning scene to me looks like it was even shot with a different director. The whole beginning scene looked different from the rest of the movie.
Mm-hmm. Like with the whole filtering and everything. With
right. Yep.
You know, the rain and all that stuff.
That was the Snyder cut.
But yeah, that's so.
What do you rate this movie, Jeff? If you were going to rate it,
well, you know, since we were getting honest, you know, some of the other movies I really did like a lot, you know, and I gave Demolition a high ranking because, you know, I truly love that movie. I know some of you guys hated it, kind of, but this one here, you know, I watched it again, and you guys said something last time. You know, there's a difference in when you first initially watch a movie and then when you rewatch it. You know, now, you know, back then in '94, man, I was like, man, this is amazing. It's great. You know, 10, you know, Van Damme. But now that I've watched it again now a few times, actually, I'd probably put it around maybe a 6.5. And just due to the fact that there's some of the things that just didn't make sense. I love the movie overall, but a 6.5 because, you know, it was, I think there could have been more as far as the action sequences go. You know, I didn't feel that I really got the full Van Damme experience.
I do feel like he laid on the Van Damme real heavy when he fought those goons in the Wall Street office. Early in the movie, I rewatched that. That fight scene is actually really impressive when he fights the handlebar mustache guy and the other goons that come in. But again, they have absolutely no martial arts training. So
right. Yeah, and you know, you saw him trying to use the eskrima, you know, kind of concept in there with the two sticks, right?
Yeah.
But it was kind of weird how they were doing the shot. It was like 1, 2, okay, next move. 1, 2, right? So it was just like this weird slow. 4 hits, dude's dead. Got it. You know, and it was just some of those things. But overall, again, you know, I do really like the movie. Again, 9 to a 10 when I first initially saw it. About a 6.5 right now.
Wow. What a drop in the ratings.
You sicking me.
Daniel, your parting thoughts, some observations, and give us a rating.
Yeah, so I'm close to where Jeff's at. You know, if you take out, like, to me, time traveling it's a strange trope. It's really hard to pull off, like you said. You know, for the obvious reasons, nobody's done it. So how do you do it right? But it's just I don't know. I just think writing for time travel and trying to be serious is difficult. So taking that whole trope out of it, you know, and just accepting the movie for what it is.
Then it's just called Cop.
Van Damme doing the splits, futuristic weapons, you know, and you know, some really good acting between a villain who's larger than life, which is what you want in an action movie. And not a big fan of the Van Damme one-liners. I like when he philosophizes a little bit more and you kind of like, what the hell is he talking about? To me, that's a better trope for Van Damme. I think his accent and his English kind of lends better to that than the quippy one-liners.
And his wife made fun of his English too.
Yeah. You know, they were talking about, you know, the way you speak, you'd have to read your mind.
Yep.
But yeah. All that aside, just collectively, I put it at a 7 out of 10. I enjoy it. It's fun. It's exactly what a 90s action movie, what we've been doing here for a little bit, is supposed to be. It's just fun. You know, there's explosions and time travels and, you know, good looking women, and just everything you'd want from that kind of movie. So just a solid 7 out of 10. I really enjoyed it.
All right, Timecop lover.
You're both
Give it
wrong.
to us.
But that's okay. Love you guys. You're both wrong. It's on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 48. I mean, clearly. Now, honestly, I would say, yeah, of course, there's flaws in it. But, I mean, when you do time travel, as you guys have said, you can't really make sense of it because there's no ground rules of it. So I loved it for what it was, even though, again, many flaws in it. The one scene that we actually didn't mention was when Ron Silver Younger gets that scar.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you just see it just go up on his face. I was like, oh, that's cool. That is so cool. And so I think the acting was good. Not great. For me, the story was fun. To me, that was kind of groundbreaking for me back then, outside of Back to the Future, obviously. I would say, I mean, I'm going 9.2, doggone it.
I like it.
It's near mint. It's 9.2.
I'm gonna echo that. I'm gonna give it a 9 because, believe it or not, the time travel part of it is what really sells it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because without that, then the movie is just called Cop, and I'm not really interested in the cop aspect. The time travel of going back and changing the timelines and saving his wife and him being in the same room with his younger self and his younger self being confused. I never understand any of these time travel movies where they see themselves and there's only 10 or 15 years difference. I don't know why they don't recognize themselves. They know what they look like. But I like the thing you said about Ron McCombs, the cut on his face. That sort of stuff to me, even in rewatching, and again, the reason I've picked all these movies is because I have seen every movie we reviewed. I saw it on either the night it opened or the weekend it opened. So every film from the 90s, I used to see a lot of films in the 90s. I was not a social butterfly, but I used to go see a lot of films. And to be honest with you, the movie did hold up because with all the science fiction and time travel movies that have been depicted, whether it's Endgame or Doctor Who or any sci-fi show that you've ever seen, where they have time jumps and alternate all this and that, I actually liked the way Timecop was done, except for the device they used. The car made absolutely no sense to me in any way, shape, or form. And that confused the hell out of me, just even as a writer. I don't even know why you would write that in there. It made no sense. However, all the time travel aspects, especially right from the get-go, them stealing that Civil War gold to be used for terrorist activity, and then McCombs going back to make as much money to finance his presidential race. I really dug all that. And I dug the stuff at the end. And I even dug the fact that he came home to his wife and a son that he had never seen before, even though the kid was 7 years old and knew that he was dad and got conceived by him, even though he wasn't there. All these concepts that'll just blow your mind. Still, I kind of like that because it's like a whoa to me. So I give it a 9, a solid 9. And actually, out of the movies that were reviewed, one of my favorites to rewatch. So, you know, I'm surprised at how much I enjoyed it 25 years, 26 years later, or whatever it is. 36 years later, whatever. I'm bad at math. But the point is, Timecop is a good movie. It's a kick-ass movie. And the reason, and I do echo Jeff's sentiments, it didn't have enough Van Damme in it, but because it had too much time travel in it. But again, the name of the movie was Timecop and not Karate Cop. So I think, you know, or Kung Fu Cop. Although I would like to see a movie called Kung Fu Cop. That
Kung Fu Panda Cop.
Kung Fu Panda Cop. Jack Black and Jean-Claude Van Damme team up for Kung Fu Panda Cop. You know, I would like to see a sequel with Van Damme doing that again. I would like to see another Time Cop now with Van Damme in the year 2021 wearing those 90s clothes still.
Let me ask you one quick question.
You can ask as many questions as you want.
Well, it's just one.
All right.
Now, imagine it's 1994.
Okay.
You're coming out of a theater.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, some old guy comes up to you.
Yeah.
And it's you.
Just like this. Yeah.
Yes. Are you going to be like, oh, yeah, that's me in 10 years? Are you going to be like, who the hell is this guy looking like me in 10 years?
I think I could age myself in my mind 10 years real quick. I don't know.
I don't think I would.
But Ron Silver didn't look that much different. I mean, I think he had the same haircut, the same suit. He looked a little heavier and older, which I don't know how they did that then. Maybe they had a little makeup on him or something. But, you know, he was the same guy.
Yeah.
And Van Damme only had like 4 inches more hair.
But I mean, I'm telling you, if someone comes up to me looking like me, I'm gonna be like, what?
That's true. You know what? You're right, Daryl. You proved me wrong, because the thing is, he hasn't seen himself. Like if you go in the past, you know what your past self looks like, but you don't know what your future self looks like.
And there's no time travel, so you would be
I get that. Yeah. You just might think it looks like another handsome guy like yourself. Is what it is.
Wait, did my dad have me when he was 10?
Right.
I still think this movie has more impact than maybe we're giving it credit for. I don't know if you guys have seen Looper.
Yep.
But I mean, Looper is essentially Time Cop, but from the bad guy's perspective.
Yeah. Good comparison there.
Talk about running into yourself. Like, it's just no way if I'm Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Brad Pitt or Bruce Willis shows up in front of me, I'm like, oh yeah, that's totally me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. So clearly, it had some impact, and a lot of the '90s movies that we've done, like, you can pinpoint like the model for it, and like you said, is like a model for time travel movies going forward.
And like you said, with the government shit, with the President Trump comparison, that's pretty spot on too, because he was like, the government doesn't need a bureaucrat or a politician. It needs a guy with so much money that he can do whatever he wants without political interest stuff. So they had that. Also, did you hear
choices? They're getting so meta that I'm thinking that you got shut down because of that, not because we're onto something, not because of copyright infringement.
Yeah, I believe so. Like that last stream I did, I was talking about getting plugged into the Matrix or something, and all of a sudden the internet went out on me. So yeah, I mean, the world is beyond meta. I thought it weird too how they said that the government was supplying or someone was giving money to candidates to run. And they mentioned that the white supremacist party was running. There was a lot of weird political statements in that. But you know what? In the 90s, man, I think the 90s was, like you said, remember when Silver McComb said, I want to bring it back to the Reagan years or the 80s. Mm-hmm. That's the whole thing. It's every time we have a very polarizing 8 years or 12 years of government and war and this and that, it's like a cycle. It's like all of a sudden then everybody gets nuts and then everybody gets nuts again. And also when people say how bad the world is right now, really, no, it's just different, but it's still the same shit. I think you have to keep in mind too, in the 90s, in this time of, the films that we're, reviewing and talking about, like, you could be satirical and not called to the carpet and have your career. Right. Like and you know what's funny too is the internet was around in the 90s. Mm-hmm. You had AOL and the internet existed. Yet in 1994, you did have the early internet, but you didn't like that wasn't used in the movie at all. Like with all the science and technology, no one is ever on a computer looking shit up. You know what I mean? Like there's no, they're still using payphones and all that shit. So, it is what it is. Meanwhile, I watched an episode of Charlie's Angels from like 1977, and they had a big cellular phone in the car, and they're like, mobile operator, give me California. And they were doing that back in the 70s. But in the 90s, they're using fucking payphones. So, it is what it is. So they prophesized a lot of stuff, yet missed the obvious stuff in a lot of movies. Even Demolition Man, the same thing. There was all these political prophecies, but to be honest with you, those same political prophecies can be found in Ridley Scott's Blade Runner.
Yep.
The whole, everything that was in Blade Runner, except the cool flying cars, everything is kind of like that now. So, but any closing thoughts, Mr. Rankin?
Oh, not really. No,
all right.
just it's just a good movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But definitely never interrupt me when I'm talking to myself. All right.
That's a great line.
Again, I that was another scene that we didn't talk about. But when they did go back with McComb and McComb faced himself off, that whole scene where Van Damme and Fielding had the real first fight interaction with the bad guys, I think the whole environment that they created with that just looked actually kind of awesome. That was very impactful. And me talking about my 6.5, more I'm starting to get, I'm a little more like Daniel, maybe 7 after I'm pushing this through here, my thought processy. But yeah, I think it's amazing. Man, the last one that I'll give is Silverman, because you brought it up about the rich a little bit. He had that one liner: when I'm in office, it's going to be just like the 80s. The top 10% will get richer, and the other 90% can emigrate to Mexico where they can get a better life, basically separating us completely.
2 on the nose.
Yep.
It's funny.
Daniel, closing thought?
One of the scenes that Jeff actually was just talking about with Van Damme and Fielding. It's like the fastest double cross in movie history. Like as soon as they get into the past, they're like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm working for him.
Yeah. What was the threat? What was he threatening, to kill her parents or something?
I don't remember.
There was a threat against her family in the future.
Was it a daughter? His daughter? Her daughter?
No, I don't think so.
I literally completely forgot.
The threat was he was going to go back and kill Bobby, who she slept with.
Yeah.
Who needs a second chance?
It would have been like the fastest ending to the movie ever. He walks out and freeze.
She really did double cross him very quickly.
Immediately. It's like, oh, there's the bad guy. Let's go take him out. They got the drop on him. They have him surrounded. They have that whole freeze interchange. And then it's like, yeah, just kidding.
And then he said, I don't want to hit a woman. And he said, oh, I changed my mind, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, all right. How about you, Daryl? You got one last thing to say? You want to show that poster one more time?
I got it. I mean, I've never actually showed this before, so I guess I could.
Okay.
But what other scene that was in that movie that when that goon that was on that catwalk and his arm froze? Like, that's pretty good graphics for way back in those days.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, there it is.
I thought the arm freezing
Those
graphics.
eyes, you cannot say no.
There's a theme. There's a theme of people getting frozen in Van Damme movies. Oh no, that was Demolition Man.
I was like, wait, which other movie was it? I don't remember any Kickboxer.
I'm sorry.
There's the theme of him dancing in movies, though.
That's true. I'm tired. I'm sorry. Yeah. My mind told me it was Van Damme, but my body said it was Stallone. Anyway, Misty America Misty America is still on demand at the moment, but since everybody on the panel's backed it, I don't need to go any further. Anyway, gentlemen, great time tonight.
Yep.
I want to thank all 2 people watching this. One of them's me, so I want to thank everybody watching this at home. Please watch it on the relay, and please, if you're checking this out live or on the replay, please subscribe if you haven't, and smash that like button. Don't press it gently, but smash it like the Hulk or Ron Jeremy, however you want to do it. Anyway, this is Anthony Sica with Jeff Rankin, Daryl, Simply Incredible #1, Darth Driscoll, Daniel, my good buddies. Until next time, keep it 90s, keep it actions, and keep it kick-ass flicks. Ciao.